Hello, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Renata, and in today's video I am sharing with you the 5 questions one take tag. Hopefully I can get through without cutting, slicing, or dicing my video, because that is something I like to do. I love editing my video, making it look nice and pulling all these different transitions in, but not for this challenge. Before we get to the 5 questions, I'm going to leave a link to my very first seamstress tag down below, as well as links to any other sewing YouTubers that have taken the challenge so far. So let's jump right into it. The first question here is, what has your sewing journey been like? Well, personally for me, it has been pretty much my life. I have been sewing since I was 12 years old. I have been ripping clothing to create new ones as I grow and get older. The reason for this was I'm the last. I always get all the hand-me-downs, and we were not a family that could just go out there and buy new things when you wanted it, when you needed, like on a whim. Like, no, are you kidding me? You get what you need when you need it. You don't really get a lot of wants, and that was okay because everyone knew the situation. However, I wanted to push the envelope, and I decided, I like sewing. I have an aptitude for it. I love putting pieces together. I like the colors. I like stitching. I'm not bored by it. It's very interesting to me. I'm gonna try it, even though I know nothing about sewing. I didn't even own a book that could teach you about sewing. Basically started to rip t-shirts that I really liked and asked my mom to pick up some fabric if she could please, and she did, and she continued to push me in the direction of learning to sew and enjoying it. In our home, we've always had a sewing machine. My mom would sometimes sew clothing, not a lot. She'd probably make an apron or two. She would do cushion covers, curtains, and kitchen towels. Those were basically all that she did. She didn't really like sewing clothing very much. I, on the other hand, as you guys can tell, I love it. So that is my initial journey into sewing. I taught myself, so that kind of takes care of that portion of the question. And breaks, yes, I've had quite a few breaks in sewing. When I first started, it was to get clothing, make things, have new pieces for when you leave the house. I needed to get new things, and I didn't care what it looked like inside, as long as the front looked good, as long as the back looked good, seams were kind of straight, we are good to go. That was it. That was from like 13 to like 17. Then I started to work, and you get money. Who has time to sew, right? So I just didn't do any sewing. Bye. Didn't do any sewing for many years, then got married, had kids, got really into sewing a little bit when my youngest was born. I think that's when I started to get back into sewing. I mean, I did sew here and there a little bit, but it wasn't like, oh, let's do this thing, Renata. When I had her, I wanted to get a lot more done, and what happened was I started to read sewing blogs. I found Erica B. I found Amanda's Adventure in Sewing blog, and between the two of them I was like hooked. That it was this whole new world. I never knew that there was this thing called blogging, that people would sew and talk about it and how beautiful it is. Then I found British Style magazine, and that kind of just took me in the direction of I am doing this all the time. Then all the kids started to have different extracurricular activity from 5 years old to like 12, so I had to stop again. And now that they're all doing their own thing and giving me a little breather, I came back to sewing just when Isabella was like in 6th grade. So they were older, they enjoyed each other, and I could get an hour to sew. And that's when I started to sew often. I started my blog back in 2009, and from 2009 to 2012 it was dipsy. It was in and out, in and out. But once 2012 hit, I started to sew a little bit more, blog a little bit more, but always inconsistent. So that's pretty much the break. I'll get back into the blogging soon because there's another question coming up really quick about that. So let's move on to question 2. Describe your sewing space. The sewing space. I try to keep my sewing space very, very clean. I always clean up after a project is completed. So every time I complete a project totally, it's done, I clean up all the time. I clean the space. I vacuum the floor. It has to be clean. I cannot work in a messy space. I just feel cluttered. I feel like everything is just enveloping me and I just cannot focus because all I can think about is like, oh my gosh, these things need to find their home, please. So my sewing space is pretty much always clean after a project. Now while I'm sewing, yes, there will be things that you're snipping thread, I'm just chucking it. I have no time for you. When I'm done, you are going to be sucked up by the vacuum. Just know that. So that is the part of my sewing space that is going to take shape after the project is done. I also pretty much have an entire space for myself. In my previous home, I had a bigger space. I would say yes. Before we moved, the space that I had was really big because I had a 6 feet table. So it was really long, it was really high, and it was perfectly wide enough for the width of the fabric to hold, and I can roll it out and have at least 2.5 yards of fabric completely on it. Now all I have is that thing behind me. Do you see that little table? That drives me crazy. It's so small and it's low. When I'm cutting, I like to be high, and because of that, cutting is really a pain. So I have to drag my mat downstairs to my dining table, which isn't much taller than this, but it's 8 feet long. So I still have that whole length, which is really nice, but I want it in my space, and I'm probably not going to have that for a while. So I'm just dealing with what I have right now. The space is pretty much mine. The table that I sew on is back there. When I do most of my cutting, it's downstairs. If I have to lay something to make sure that everything is lined up, it's so frustrating to have to walk down those 19 steps to get downstairs and then come back up and then have to do it again because sometimes you always forget something. So that is frustrating. But I do have a room, I have a table that's out there, and it is a blessing because not a lot of people have space that they can spread out like this. So I am thankful for it. Just annoyed that I don't have 2 tables because it is such a plus to have one table for your sewing and another table for your cutting, because that way you can have your pieces laid out really nicely instead of having them kind of rolled in a corner and pulling, and it's just such a mess. So if you guys can have 2 tables, I would recommend that. You will be so happy. So table, sewing back behind me. My office where I work for my day job, there's a computer and a desk over here. There's a TV here. No one really watches that. I pretty much play YouTube videos on that as background as I sew. Straight ahead of me behind the camera is my editing computer. Is also my husband's video game computer, so it is souped up like it's an awesome computer. I have 5 terabytes on that, plus I have an external hard drive. It is amazing. The graphic cards are just awesome, so I love working on that. We have 2 screens, so it's a magical thing. He built it, and it's a great computer for doing this. And then I have my dress form just to the left of that desk over there. I also have, maybe you guys will get a tour one day. I'm so self-conscious because it's not the room that I really want. It's what I have, and I love it. But I can't wait to just get a space that I could totally make mine. Side note again, I have a IKEA bookshelf, and there's about 7 shelves on there. 2 shelves have my fabric stash. 2 shelves house my Berta magazine from 2009 to last month. So that goes to tell you how much I love hoarding Berta magazines. I shouldn't be buying patterns, but here I am thinking about buying that new Friday patterns blouse. Shouldn't buy it. And the next 3 shelves on that has all my Vogue, Simplicity, and just any other patterns that I have are all housed there. So it's a pretty good sized space. I'm going to show it to you guys one day, but that's pretty much it. I don't really share it. The only time I share this space is when someone is on the computer and I want to edit my video or I want to write a blog post, because although there's a computer here that's for work and I'm not using that for anything other than work, company product, cannot do personal stuff on that. And there's also a computer in the other room back there because the kids are all homeschooled, so we have 3 computers. 3? Altogether we have, the kids each have a computer, so there is computers, but somehow someone is always in command of it, and I have to like be the Twilight Stitcher and do my stuff when everyone is sleeping, because they're all little hogs and they just hog the screen and they just don't share. So that is question 2, and I know that was kind of a long rant there. The third question here is, what is it like to be a sewing YouTuber? And the inside of the question, it says, does it meet your expectations? Is it how you thought it would be? Reactions, or just share your thoughts. So like I was saying back then, I started sewing again back in 2019, and after a while, personally, I wanted to do videos because I was heading over to YouTube to do research for all sorts of things like cooking and decorating and how to do this with a computer or how to make your website, because back then I was not like pretty savvy with blogging and having a really nice blog. So I wanted it to look visually appealing. So I would go to YouTube and try my hand at, okay, how to add this, because I was just too cheap and lazy and didn't want to pay someone to do it for me, and I wanted to do it myself. And then I was like, maybe I should do some videos. And then I did some searching on there back in 2013, and then I found Mini G, and I was like, whoa, she is doing some really awesome stuff there. But she did a lot of videos to fit her frame. Back then, most of her videos were like, she's petite, and she did videos to fit herself. And lazy girl like me, I don't like to do alterations. I don't. So I work my tail off so that I stay fit, so that I don't have to do adjustments. I hate adjustments. I hate doing alterations on things. I like that I can make the pattern, it fits me without any issues. That's my personal thing. I like it. And I was like, oh, she's doing some great stuff with her videos. I love that. Maybe I should do it. Can I do it? And it took me a while because I was really nervous. I don't like to talk. I'm pretty much very shy. I don't talk a lot. Right. When I meet people. I mean, once I get to know you, you can't really shut me up. But for the most part, I speak when things are necessary. Like if I am asked a question, I'll answer it. I'm not the person that has to be heard all the time in a group. I pretty much, listen. I listen more than I speak. So I wasn't sure that this would be the platform for me. And then I had a thicker, stronger Caribbean accent. Now I don't know what I have, but it was really, really thick. It must have thinned out somehow, but I felt conscious about my accent and how people would hear me. Because even with certain words, I still make those little speech, there's just these little words, if you really listen to when I talk, certain words come out differently. And I've been always conscious about that when I'm doing my videos. But I think once you've started to record often, you gain confidence and you know what you're talking about. So you just flow really nicely. There's no in your statements because you know what you're talking about. You're confident, you are passionate about it, and it becomes easier. So that really helped. But in the beginning, I was pretty nervous about doing it. So regarding YouTube, my expectations were not a big thing because I started to make my video pattern reviews before there was a lot of sewing YouTubers out here. My very first video probably dropped like in 2014, and then I went on 2015. I did from like January to April, and Wisconsin was cold, so that was another thing. I had a lot of breaks because it's so cold. We lived in Wisconsin. I lived there for 17 years, and it's so cold, and I just hated getting videos done out there when it's super cold, and also your mood is just so low. I'm telling you, I've grown a lot now that I can actually put myself in a frame of mind where I know certain things are only going to last so long. So I know going out in the cold and doing a video is only going to last about 15-20 minutes. So later on in my YouTube life, it all got okay, like 2017. But before that, my mood would be horrible. I worked outside of the home, so I'd have to go to work, pick up the kids, and then it would be cold. So in Wisconsin, when it's like 3 o'clock, 3:30 from September, it's dark, it's pitch black, like it's night. You're just not in the mood. So I had a lot of that sort of winter depression to deal with throughout that time. So the videos weren't consistent. And my expectations were, oh my gosh, no one's following me. Why aren't people liking these things? But consistency was not there. So the expectation was, if I put a video up, thank heavens I've made it. Because guys, if you know the week that I had, you'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe she did that. Because it was just hell. So yeah. I still don't have too much like expectations because this is something I like to do. I love sewing. I love bringing out these videos. I feel like my videos are getting better. I'm still not a good videographer. Like I can't do amazing transitions that I envision in my mind, but I think that I'm getting into a groove where I know how I sort of want it to flow and how I want them to look. I'm finding the perfect aesthetics for my channel, my personality, and what I want my audience to see. So that is fun. And if it's expectations, I just want, to make people excited about being creative, excited about something that they're passionate about. It doesn't even have to be sewing. Hopefully this video comes out and you're like, ooh, I'm going to grab something by the horn and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and I'm going to feel wholesome. So that's pretty much expectation in a nutshell. If someone sees my video and they're happy and they give me a thumbs up, that is all that I can ask for. So I guess I'm pretty easy to please. I don't know. I try not to let a lot of stuff bug me. I try to let things roll off the shoulder, because what can you do? I don't want to waste my time being upset about things that I can't change. I am going to live happy with all the things that I enjoy and stay that way. Because the more you smile, the less wrinkles you have. And you don't want that, right? Okay, let's move on to question 4. My most memorable project. The Little Red Dress project. That's the most memorable thing. It started in 2016, right after I did my seamstress tag. The creator of the seamstress tag, Holly Dolly or Holly Sews, she's not on YouTube anymore, but she created the tag and we were chatting. She lives in the UK, I live in the US. We were chatting. She said in her seamstress tag that I was one of her favorite YouTubers for sewing to watch, and I was like, whoa, yes, oh my gosh. I don't have much subscribers, but I make someone happy, so that's great. And then we just started to talk on Instagram, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, we should do something for the holidays. And I was like, oh, why don't we call it the Little Red Dress project? And she's like, whoa, yeah, let's do something. And we got together with a bunch of other YouTubers. This was really young in the YouTube world. Oh gosh, there were so many people. I'll leave a link down below to the blog post, and you guys can check out all the names of the then YouTubers. Some of them still make videos, some of them have gone different directions, but yeah, check out that list. It was so fun. I have made 4 red dresses. This is year 5, and you're probably wondering, if it started in 2016, why is this year 5? Well, 2018 was just like a crashed year for me. We pretty much gutted our house in Wisconsin because we were done with it, and I just couldn't focus on sewing or anything like that. So that's pretty much why I wasn't around a lot. So there was no Little Red Dress challenge for that year. But this year it's coming up, and I have a video coming out for you in 2 weeks to tell you about this year's Little Red Dress project. So put that on your calendar, because it's going to be beautiful. Too much has happened in the last 18 months. We need to come out hot in our living rooms and just look amazing, right? So that is the most memorable one. I'm going to post some of the dresses up here so that you can see the ones that I made for that challenge. Question 5, coming down to the end of this. I can't believe how much I can talk with only 5 questions. It's a good thing they didn't say one-word answers for these, because I would be struggling. Okay, what is one quote, saying, piece of advice you've gotten that resonates with your sewing or YouTube success? Right now, I think the most important thing is consistency, and content is king. I don't know about algorithms and anything for YouTube. I should spend more time working on it, but I know that if you come out here every day and you're present and people know that you're coming out, it shows that you're serious. And right now, I'm pretty serious about this. I am enjoying this like you have no idea. No idea. I love it so much. So consistency and content is king. Make sure, and that's what I'm working a lot on, that the things that I bring forth to you guys are what I love, so that when I speak to you about it, the passion flows, and you can see that in my face, and you can see that in my pieces. Also, just take your time. Don't rush things. I think with sewing, slow sewing is key. Don't just come out here and make things that you that happened to me too. You know, I follow the rabbit, and I'm like a squirrel. Oh my gosh, there's this new thing, there's that new thing, and I jump on it, and you really lose sight of who you are and your aesthetics, the things that you like. You start making things for the social media. And recently, I have stopped making things for Instagram and for YouTube. I have been making pieces that I really, really love. And I've been choosing the colors. I have been influenced. Now, I'm not saying you cannot be influenced by social media to influence your sphere, like the things that you look into, the different shapes, the different colors. Those things can inspire you. But don't lose sight of your unique taste. Take what you like, and if you find a trend that calls to you, you're like, oh, that looks interesting. I just don't like the back open, like that dress. I wasn't too sure about that last post that I shared on Sunday. I've made 2 of that dresses now, but I wasn't sure about it because there is no back, and I'm also very conscious of that. I could have gone and put a back panel, and now that might be something I could do with it, because I added buttons to my last dress, and if I wanted, I could put a panel in there and make it work for me. So don't lose sight of who you are. Let these things slightly bring new angles, new views, new thoughts in front of you, but don't let that take over you, because you want you to shine through when you bring out your projects. You don't want to be a counterfeit. You don't want to be fake. You want to be you, because that is all authenticity, and that is what makes each of us unique on this platform here. So I don't know how good this ramble worked for you, but I just wanted to pop on, do the 5 questions, 1 take. I'm not sure how long it took. Hopefully not too long. Sorry if it is. But there you have it, guys. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, I would love for you to give this one a thumbs up. I know I talked a lot in this video. Trust me, the next one that's coming is going to be a little more organized, because I'm going to know what I'm going to be sharing about, and I'm going to be able to cut if I just talk too much. So there you have it. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you on another upload. Bye-bye.